Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today we're actually going to be testing Ghost Rider with the CTP of Rage and a CTP of Judgment. Now, this is a really interesting test that I've never done before, and I'm really excited to do, and it has to do with those two CTPs and then Pierce, because Pierce on the effect on cards seems to have a more beneficial synergy with Judgment and Energy CTPs, and it might probably be, again, we're not really sure, but it might probably be because of the chain hit, right? There's chain hit damage on a CTP of Energy, and there's also chain hit damage on a CTP of Judgment. And the nice thing is, for a lot of the elemental characters nowadays, they work better or as good with a CTP of Judgment, and that's one of the things that I've heard sort of in general from players of this game. They've been a lot happier with the recent builds of characters and sort of the direction the devs are going in, because, you know, rewind a year ago, and every new character that came out, it was like, oh, so they have an easy proc, Energy, they have a hard proc, Rage. And even more so than that, you could have just generally said, you know, 99% of characters that came out, just give them a CTP of Rage. What's the best CTP? CTP of Rage. And I even joked with the last no CTP tier list that I made back in 2020, it was basically a no Rage CTP list. But that's not the case anymore. Right now you have characters that are just straight up better with Judgment versus Rage. Like Rogue, like she's just straight up better with a Judgment than with a Rage, whether you have 0 Pierce or 25% Pierce, it doesn't matter. She's always better with Judgment. But some characters are sort of in between, like Thor and Ghost Rider, etc., and they seem to not be able to take full advantage of the synergy between Pierce and Judgment when you have very little Pierce, 0, 2%, 4% Pierce. But where's that sweet spot? Well, I don't have the crystals, and I don't have a time machine to really test every single layer of Pierce climbing up from 2%, but we're at 14 right now, and this is probably the last time I'm going to be able to test it with a semi-realistic amount of Pierce. I know that seems ridiculous to some of you out there, but I know quite a lot of players now that have 2%, 4%, 6% Pierce, so it's just a little bit more than double that. And in the meantime, I'm going to be climbing up higher than 14% Pierce, so now is the best time to test it. So we're going to jump in, and we're going to, record a couple of different runs with Ghost Rider to see how he does with a Rage, and then we're going to swap him over to a Judgment. We're not going to change anything else about the build. He's got a mythic uniform. I did throw on 2 magic Odin's Blessings to just really beef him out, because I love Ghost Rider and I love playing with him. So he's now rocking, if I don't press away from the thing, he's rocking 47,800 energy attack and just under 60,000 HP. So let's see what this dude can do with a Rage, and then let's see if he can get powered up and do even more with a Judgment. Okay, so now's the time to start placing your bets. Which CTP do you think is going to reign supreme? We're going to do 2 test runs here. We're going to do one with the level stage 14, so we're going to have, you know, a sort of different team than you might be used to seeing, because we can't use any female characters on the team at all. And then we're going to do another test on stage 9, and we're basically doing this double test so that we can get a realistic idea of his damage. You know, he might just do too much damage at stage 9 with 14% Pierce that it might not really matter whether I'm using Rage or Judgment. So here we're going to get a much more accurate idea, because we're going to get 2 different tests at 2 different difficulties and at 2 different points in the fight. So this first one here, we're just going to do down to the chair phase. So we're just going to see how long it takes us to get this dude out of his chair. For this, we're just going to go full send. We're going to always proc our tier 3 when we can. We're, of course, going to try to dodge the cages as well, but we're just going to, you know, go. We're not going to save anything for phase 2, because there is no phase 2. So there we go. That was a minute. So actually, it was a minute, 1 minute, 1 second. So we're just going to 101. So that was stage 14 to get him out of the chair. Now we're going to go down to a stage 9. We did that with basically 60% ignore dodge, so there's a little bit of variance there, but neither CTP has ignore dodge, so you don't have to worry about that. But yeah, because you're using male characters only as the requirement, you can't use female characters even in the striker spot. So it makes it a little bit more difficult for characters like Ghost Rider that don't have any ignore dodge until they're tier 3. So that's why I went ahead and gave him Doctor Strange. I know, you know, having Cyclops there is an extra 5%, but it's only 5%, and in the meantime, he gives him 20% ignore dodge, and then we have both of the only ignore dodge male strikers. So 60% is pretty good. It's close to 100%, and then he pops his tier 3 and he goes to 160%. So that's pretty dang good too. Now we can scale it down to stage 9 and see how fast he can rip through the entire fight with the optimal team, which would be this right here with Valkyrie, giving him 30%, giving him that huge bump against villains, which is going to be better than what Storm can give him. And then we're going to keep the strikers the same, because now with the 30 and this, it's 40, it's 70%. So we're getting even closer to 100%, but we're still maintaining some damage, and we're still maintaining that really important Ancient One striker. All right, so we had to make a cut there. I completely forgot that I was doing the entire fight and not just the first part, so I actually ended up accidentally proccing his tier 3 at the end of the chair phase, sort of accidentally. But some people, I think, are going to be a little bit confused with my rotation for Ghost Rider, because it's very much so outside the norm. We're going to use the tier 3 a little bit more delayed here so that we can do that. But yeah, essentially the way that I do Ghost Rider's rotation, I try to stagger 5 and 3 because it's going to give him the most amount of survivability. And this time around, we're not using Venom, so we have to be a little bit more careful, and we have to sort of protect Ghost Rider from the damage that Null does. Very, very nice thus far. Okay, we are 50 seconds into this fight, and we're already more than halfway done. We're going to stall just a little bit here so that we can pop the 5 so that we don't get guard broken. Then we're going to rip through his defenses here. Now, the reason why we wanted to run one completely all the way through was so that we could also do the dragon phase skipping, because it's important to acknowledge that some characters have enough burst damage to skip the dragon phase, whereas other characters don't. And to be able to document that that change is an important one, because it's going to, it's going to affect the time and how long it takes you to clear these. Okay, we actually weren't able to... I think he just interrupted my tier 3. This is pretty close to Ghost Rider's time. Let's call it 3 minutes and 30 seconds. That's a full clear, so he did that in 90 seconds. Again, you're going to see a little bit of variance. Maybe I could do it like 5 or 10 seconds faster, maybe 5 or 10 seconds slower on some runs. But the thing is, at this stage with this much Pierce, at such a low stage with so much Pierce and so many supports, the fluctuation, you're clearing it so fast that a 5-second difference actually doesn't really make a difference, because it could just be you didn't quite rotate your proc fast enough to build up your next tier 3, or you didn't wait long enough for your next transcended, and you actually ended up wasting more time during the cage phase at the end. It could be a little awkward, but now we have some data. He's obviously flying through this content, but he's very, very strong. But is Judgment going to make him even stronger? Okay, so I got kind of paranoid because the results were just a little bit too fast. Ghost Rider's just a little bit too good. So I wanted to do one more test. This one's going to be a lot slower than the others. And the point of this is to basically give us something that's going to be a little bit more of a shift if one CTP is really juicing him a lot more than the others. So this is going to be stage 19 with a human-only squad. So we can still bring along Doctor Strange leadership, but now we can't bring along any of the, Valkyrie or Mystique buffs. We can't bring Medusa for the lead, and so we can't even bring Cyclops because he's a mutant. So we're going to resort to Spider-Woman, who has a team-up with Doctor Strange. I'm going to get stunned here by the second cage. A team-up with Doctor Strange for 5% energy attack. You know what? If I can build up the tier 3 and pop it, yeah, I can actually dodge the second cage. Okay, this is nice. This is really nice. But yeah, so we basically have 35% all attack and then 60% ignore dodge. And I just did this because I was looking at the times and I was like, 90 seconds, a minute. These are really, really close times already. What happens if they're just too close and it's only like a 5 or 10 second difference in that as well? It's really not going to matter all that much, right? So that, let's be safe. Let's get 3 different tests in and see. Now we're having a little bit of trouble here at the end, but this is sort of normal variance, just Null being a jerk. Yeah, we're taking tons of damage. We popped our tier 3 kind of late there, but okay, this is sort of more what I was expecting. Okay, so that was a minute, and so 3:25 left on the clock. So that took about a minute and 35 seconds. That is gonna help us suss out what's really going on and which CTP is really boosting him more. when we now do the triple test. So now let's go swap the CTPs and jump back into this testing. So first test here, stage 14. How long is it going to take us to get him out of the chair? The previous record was, or the previous result was 1 minute and 1 second. So we're going to see how we do against that. That was a huge burst of damage. I'm going to pop the tier 3 here to dodge the cage. And then we're going to save the co-op skill for the second cage. But we are flying right now damage-wise. Looking very, very good. Nice. This is the other reason why I try to stagger the 5 and the 3 for Ghost Rider, is you don't want to have nothing to do. But there you go. That was 50 seconds. So again, this is why I wanted to do multiple different tests, but that is 10 seconds or 11 seconds faster than he was with a rage. That might not be conclusive evidence, but it's not bad at all. Now let's see if we go down to stage 9, how fast I can do the entire fight with a judgment. In hindsight, I probably should have done the stage 14 and the stage 19 chair tests first, just because it's a completely different way of playing. Wow, this is really fast. Yeah, this is like really fast to the point where I'm trying to figure out how to optimize this to not get stunned. Just gonna sit on this here. Taking a ton of damage. I don't know where, hello, wow. I don't know where Ancient One is. The circles are supposed to protect me from the poison, but I guess Ancient One just took a day off. He's meeting Captain America to get back that stone. I don't know. Wow. Really nice. Really nice. So we actually were able to pull off that combo. But yeah, I should have done the stage 14 and the stage 19 chair tests first, because it's actually a completely different way of playing. I'm also going to have to just move out of the way here because I don't want to die to the poison. That would be really lame to ruin the run because of a poisoning. Just going to sit in this iframe now. Wow. He went from 8 bars and it just blinked. I didn't even see the 7th bar. But we are very low on HP, so we're not going to be able to, yeah. Yeah, here's the see, this is the problem, and this is why you want to do multiple tests. So this doesn't really seem that much different. Maybe it would have been like 5 seconds different if Ghost Rider had had full health. I basically got hit more. You could say that getting hit more is possibly a product of not having the dodge. That actually only ended up being 2 seconds slower. So that's really interesting. Despite the fact that I basically had to stop and run around more, I was only 2 seconds slower. But you could argue that having max dodge with a judgment is going to protect your Ghost Rider a little bit more. And we all know that Ghost Rider is not the tankiest character. He's a little bit flimsy. But you can see here with the judgment, I still have, well, 49% dodge. So yeah, not quite 75, missing about 26%. But for now, I would say I am more impressed with the judgment. His damage does feel higher and bigger, whatever, stronger, whatever the word you want to use. He does feel like he's doing more damage. But this is really the test we have to use here to see on stage 19. He's been as fast or faster with 14% pierce. I'm not sure what the cutoff is. I would imagine, if I had to guess, at least 8 or 10% pierce. I think if you don't have 10%, 8 to 10% pierce, then Rage is probably going to be better for Ghost Rider, just because he probably has some mixture of elemental and energy damage, whereas some characters now, they have full-on elemental. Like Rogue is just so clearly better with a judgment even from the get-go. But let's see here. Let's pop the 3. Pop the tier 3. Pop the co-op to not get stunned. Very nice. Here we are going to do the fabled 5 into 3 combo. I know some people really like that. Here, I don't think we can afford. We can like. We kind of messed it up. We don't have enough, weapons here to dodge this cage. I'm gonna wait here. Nice. Look at that. That was a huge burst of damage. So we end up getting it at 347. So that's a pretty big difference actually. That is 22 seconds faster than his run with a rage. So you can see at low stages, you're not really going to see a difference. And that's sort of like the Wolverine thing we were saying. When you have enough Pierce, it doesn't really matter for weaker characters. The Pierce is doing all the work anyway. So regen or rage, it was adding like 30 seconds. No one really cares about that at lower stages, right? It doesn't make a difference. You're not going to give a rage to a character to add 30 seconds to their clear time unless they can't do it. If they go from not being able to do it, running out of time, to doing it with like 30 seconds left, then that could be the difference maker for you. But here in this case, it starts to matter when you want to push. So I think there's basically three questions you're going to want to answer for yourself. But I do think that this sort of proves that as you get more Pierce, because it's definitely not the case when you have no Pierce. No Pierce Ghost Rider with a Judgment is going to underperform compared to Rage. And you can see with this much Pierce and the synergy between Chain Hit, it's not a huge difference. It's definitely a difference, and it's definitely an advantage. And if you want your Ghost Rider to perform at maximum capacity, and if you want to push to the highest possible stage against World Boss Legend and other content, then yes, Judgment is the way to go. You can also argue that Judgment is the way to go because now you can do a Mighty Judgment or a Brilliant Judgment. You can't do that for Rage yet, right? But you can sort of understand that. But I think the three questions you have to ask yourself and answer yourself are, how many CTPs of Rage / Judgment do I have? Because that's going to matter. Some characters absolutely need a Rage and can't use a Judgment, like Doctor Strange, Odin. On the flip side, some characters absolutely need a Judgment and can't really use a Rage, like Rogue and maybe Luna or... Not Luna, Rogue or Human Torch, right? So it's really going to depend, first of all, on how many spares you have of one type or another, if you have that luxury, or if you're unequipping, if you can afford to unequip a Judgment, or if you can afford to unequip a Rage. The second thing you have to ask yourself is how much Pierce do you have on your cards? If you don't have a lot of Pierce, it's probably not worth shuffling around the CTPs to get a minor improvement, right? And the other thing you have to ask yourself, the third thing is, how badly do I want to push to a higher stage, right? If you're comfortable, and there's really no reason to not be comfortable, right? You don't have to push. There's no actually better reward for pushing. There's a little bit more XP and stuff like that, and the booty boxes are better at 20 than they are at 10, but there's a lot of ways to get premium stuff now. Premium cards, premium obelisk, CTPs, right? So we don't rely on the booty boxes as much as we did a year ago, where that was a suggestion, where I was like, yo, guys, get to stage 20 as soon as possible for World Boss Ultimate, because then those booty boxes can drop premium cards and CTPs. But now we can get those things in story fragment farming and dispatch mission farming, so it's not that much of a pressing issue. You just want to play Null stage 1 to grind all that CCF. You're going to get just as much CCF on stage 1 as I'm getting on stage 20, as Godzillionator is getting on stage 40 or 50, right? It's almost the same amount of CCF. There's a very minor difference. It's almost negligible, right? So if you don't want to push, although Judgment is better with Pierce, maybe you don't even have to bother, right? It's cool to know. It's fun to do the testing, but it's also fun to sort of, or it's also important to, realize that, yeah, Alex and Godzillionator or whatever are saying it's faster, but it's like 30 seconds, bro. It's really not the end of the world either way, right? So don't sweat it too much. If you've got a Rage on Ghost Rider or you've got a Judgment on Thor, I'm sure they're working really, really well. However, if you want to get the absolute most out of your fiery-headed boy with his motorcycle, then yeah, it seems like Judgment is the way to go, especially as your account progresses and as you build more Pierce, because we're inevitably all going to get Pierce, right? Law of averages, you're going to get good rolls on your cards eventually. You're going to get blue stars eventually. So yeah, know that for the future, but play for the present and have fun. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to have more testing coming up for you guys with the characters, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.